So like many of you out there, I would consider myself an amateur firearms enthusiast who's recently gotten a lot more into firearms. I've been getting a lot more items in my possession. And one of the things that I keep hearing about is the importance of medical gear to go along with your firearms, because statistically, if you own a firearm, you're more likely to be shot with a firearm, which I guess makes sense, but also because in a situation where I need to defend myself, defend someone else, there's also a good chance that somebody may need medical help, and I want to kind of be able to help them in any way I can. So to learn more about all of the medical equipment that I can get, what I need, why I need it, I went ahead and brought Josh in as a complete firearms expert in the field to tell me kind of what his mentality is, what he carries, and what I need to add to my EDC.
So back when I started shooting, this was not even on my radar. And as I got more and more into competitive shooting and becoming a firearms instructor, I found a lot more often that it's probably a good idea to have some kind of medical type of, I guess, blowout kit or stop the bleed kit. So I decided to reach out to find as many classes as I can take on medical applications, especially when it comes to firearms wounds and stuff like that. So I took Stop the Bleed a few times, and then I have also taken Tactical Combat Casualty Care, also known as TCCC. And I learned a lot of things about what you should have with you in maybe a go bag or a EDC bag or a range bag. They're all kind of different but have similar parts to it. I felt that it was a necessary thing, especially if I was teaching somebody and they got hurt. At least I'm able to administer first aid right away. For the most part, I just wanted everybody to be safe around me, especially since I have guns and guns and guns and ammo and ammo and ammo. So I figured, let's get the medical part down. So right here on the table, we got a bunch of NA rescue equipment. Mine particularly right here is what I have in my range bag, and this is what we have currently in stock on the website. But what we have here is one of the main things that you'll hear a lot when it comes to medical applications with firearm wounds and stuff like that, or like heavy bleeding wounds, is a tourniquet. So there are a lot of different tourniquets out there, but this is mine. This is a cat tourniquet, pretty simple setup. If you want to use it, you deploy it pretty much like this. You wrap it around a specific appendage and cinch down as hard as you can and twist this thing here to make it nice and tight. But it's not really like just important to have one of these. You kind of have to know how to use it, the right applications, the direction you need the band to go when you're putting it on yourself, because that matters in a stressful situation, which a lot of these classes will teach you, like Tactical Combat Casualty Care. There are companies out there that teach more of a civilian version of it, because usually that class is for professional use, for military and police officer personnel. And then Stop the Bleed is kind of just the generic, what happens if somebody gets hurt with a deep wound that is uncontrollably bleeding. They teach you a whole bunch of stuff, including CPR and all that stuff. But what we have here in my kit for the range, I have some compression gauze, some quick clot, and a trauma bandage kit, and a chest seal. Most of these kits come with a little Sharpie pen, so you can mark things like on the skin of the person or yourself, like allergic to, or apply tourniquet at what time. It's nice to have that, and maybe even like mark where you think the exit or entry wound is supposed to be, how big it is and stuff like that. But there's all kinds of different situations that you'll need a specific kind of pack, and you kind of have to know how to build that. I'm not going to tell you how to do that because, again, I'm not the most foremost expert on that, but I can tell you that this company has specific packages for different types of situations, and they name it kind of appropriate. But for the most part, this is kind of generally what you want to have with you when and where you are for any situation.
Yeah, so I know that this little kit we have over here, which is the IFAK, which is mini first aid kit, you've got your cat tourniquet in there, you've got gloves, you've got chest seals, you've got pressure dressing, kind of like a really good starter point for building your first aid kit, because depending on what you need, what you do, you may want to build it out some, you may want to add to it, you may say, well, one tourniquet, I need 6 tourniquets per person at the range. So, but this is a really good place to start building from. They also have, we have just cat tourniquets available so that if you do need extra, or I know one of the things you were telling me is you really shouldn't practice with your range tourniquet because
use it once.
It's a one-time use really. So for best practices, you should have a practice tourniquet to make sure you know how to use it, and then additional tourniquets to use if you ever actually need them.
Yeah, for the most part, when you practice with your tourniquet, what happens is the rubber fibers or bands inside the tourniquet stress out. So the more you use this in practice, the less effective, in theory, should be when you're using it for an actual application. So definitely get a couple training tourniquets so you can practice at home. There are a few things that you'll pick up in these classes, and like I learned, one of the things that I see a lot of the times when people are practicing on themselves is they'll try to like put the tourniquet on with both hands available and ready to go, but they're sticking in an arm that's supposed to simulate a wound. So they're opening it with both hands, and now they're like doing pretty much like this, like they're putting a backpack on. But probably in real life what happens is that arm got hit in the bone or something to a point where it's just kind of like a limp noodle, and now you have to access this tourniquet with one hand. And one other thing, probably shouldn't put this in your front pocket because I learned in the class that it's very, very, very hard to get it out of your front pocket. But pretty much you have to learn how to kind of deploy this thing with one hand using your teeth and stuff like that, and even put the tourniquet on while pretending the arm is a limp noodle, and then again knowing which way to face the tab to pull towards yourself or away from you, depending on which appendage, what position, and stuff like that. A lot of things to think about when you're actually hurt, so it's good to practice that stuff. All kinds of crazy things that you'll learn. Like one thing, I'll ask Wes, hopefully he can get this, but when do you start CPR on a bleeding victim?
As soon as the bleeding is controlled.
Correct.
Because they'll bleed out a lot faster than they'll suffocate.
You're basically pumping all that blood out. So just make sure that the bleeding has stopped before you start CPR. That's kind of the things that you learn in these classes, some things that you probably won't know right off the top of your head. But yeah, so building a kit out is really important. Training is really important. Just like firearms, you don't buy a gun and then never practice, because what good is a gun? I mean, can you use a gun in a situation and be effective? Yeah, you can, but it's probably not as good as you actually practice what to do with the gun, what happens when the gun jams, how to get it out of a box, how to get out of a holster, all that stuff.
I mean, even like if you look at this kit that you get, which is a great starter kit, everything in here is still like shrink wrapped in plastic for shipping. And if I get shot in the arm or shot in the leg or something, and I've got to get this kit open, rip this tourniquet out, I'll grab this one, it's still in plastic. So now I've got to try to like rip it off with my teeth or something. So that's why staging is so important in your actual kit. So knowing what is, like just buying this kit and throwing it in the trunk of your car does not mean you're ready to defend yourself the same way that buying a firearm and throwing it in the trunk of your car doesn't mean that you're ready to defend yourself.
Yep.
Going through figuring out what these are, how to use them, staging them so that they're actually ready to be used, and then again, practicing with them to make sure that you are current, that you're memorable. You want some kind of muscle memory to say, when I need a tourniquet, I don't want to be thinking about like, okay, what's that rhyme they told me with which direction? Like, you want to have it be instinctual.
Yep.
So with learning that, can I just go on YouTube and how to use a cat tourniquet? Because there's thousands of videos out there for that.
Yes, but also just be careful. I mean, you definitely want to take instruction from reputable instructors and companies that teach this stuff, because this is life and death. So you want to make sure you're 100% and you're getting all the information you need. A lot of the things that happen in these classes are pseudo kind of real life type situations where I had to apply a tourniquet on my leg while somebody that was like 305 pounds had his knee digging into my thigh to simulate me getting shot in the femur. Obviously, it's going to hurt a lot more if I got shot in the femur, but it really showed me like, wow, pain really does like take your mind somewhere else. You got to bring it back in because you don't really have much time in most of these situations to get your medical stuff on you. So take the classes that you need to take them over and over and over again. It doesn't hurt to know the same thing or take the same class over and over again. Another best practice would be, you have one chest seal, you might want to get 3, 4, 5 of them, just so you can either build another pack or replace it in case something gets punctured, or if you feel you just want to, out with the old, in with the new type thing.
Also, with a chest
stuff.
seal, like I've looked at videos, I understand the concept of a chest seal, but if I had to open that right now because Josh got shot in the abdomen, like I would be fumbling and be like, all right, how does this go? Which is the sticky side? So like opening up all of these things and seeing what they actually are, how they actually work, how they feel, what it's like in the package is a really big deal.
Yeah. So getting stuff, like if you open this, you'd be surprised on how much gauze is actually in here. So it's kind of surprising how much you can get into a person. Like quick clot, I tried to stuff a pork butt that was, simulated bleeding, and it took like this whole thing plus a little bit more from another kit. So you never know how much you're gonna need. And it's always better to be over prepared when it comes to stuff like this, because you could always build another kit to go with something else, to go with, your other family member in each car, or take it with you so you can keep your favorite pack at home when you're going traveling on a plane or something like that. Obviously, this is going to be a little bit hard to go on a plane with, but you can kind of build it in a certain way that helps you for that particular purpose. So having multiples of these will allow you to a la carte stuff together for whatever situation that you're going to be in or whatever you're going to want to bring with you.
So to reiterate, medical is really, really important, really to anyone, but especially someone who is carrying a firearm daily that is ready to defend themselves, defend somebody else, respond to a situation, that there is a lot more after you pull your gun, pull the trigger, then what? And medical is probably the next step in that, and we highly recommend that you not only add medical to your EDC, to your daily bag, to your vehicle, to your range bag. There's really not a place where you don't want access to medical gear, especially bare essentials like this to deal with bleeding, even if it's not a gunshot, even if it's a car accident or something. Like, there is way more situations than just I pulled my gun and now I need to deal with the situation that I may need medical, which is why we think that you need to add medical kits to your bag. You need to get training, learn how to use them, replace the gear that you use so that you have effectual gear, which is why we're gonna have a link in the pinned comment down below where you can get each of these items. We'll have a whole category page set up on our website for North American Rescue, because they do make really awesome gear. I'm definitely gonna be adding a couple of these to my gear, and you guys should too.
Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and all that jazz. More content to come real soon, so we'll see you then.